Okay. Maybe that was the recording service jumping in.
Okay.
Okay, so I packaged up a zip file and made it available on your, that you guys got a copy of. And that was the copy that I had when Yang finished this back in 2010 maybe, or 2009. It was a long time ago. One of the ways at the time to archive this was just to put it in this case, this portable GIS framework to allow it to be somewhat self-contained, kind of for the record if we were to revisit it like we're doing now. And this portable GIS framework is basically everything you need to run a web server all under one directory. And in this case, I actually have that all sitting for myself for kind of long-term storage. I have this sitting on a flash drive. So this drive G is just a 4 gig flash drive that I have plugged into my laptop. And everything it's all self-contained. And I've got a couple extra things in here that you won't have. These two XAMPP folders here you won't have, but you should have everything else. You should have a portable GIS menu, an uninstall. I think you'll have a GVDC login account info file.
I don't think we have that one.
Okay, I'll send you some of this, or maybe I'll just rebundle this one because I made a couple of modifications, and I'll post this up on that FTP again. But you should have this USB GIS. These other two are other web applications that I have just on this flash drive that I've also stored for the record that were developed a while back. But the idea here is everything on here is, again, self-contained. If you, it'll launch a few things when you open this portable GIS menu. Let's see, I already have it open. When you launch that portable GIS menu, it'll launch this control panel, and you'll want to click this Setup Portable GIS link, which will run a. I should probably just do this. Go ahead and stop these. Run the Setup Portable GIS, and it'll pull up this Windows prompt that will I can't get it to open because I've already run the setup. If I had not run this setup earlier, it would open this command prompt window that'll ask you to prompt you to say, do you want to set up this application or something like that. Did you try to do that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And you'll click yes or one or something like that. It's a little cryptic, and there's some instructions in German or something. And what it basically does is it just identifies what root drive you have it installed to. So in this case, I had it on the G drive. It just goes through and adjusts some settings throughout the application to make sure everything's pointing to in my case, the G drive. And your setup will be, could be different. So once you get this started, you're going to go over to this Web Modules panel, and these are the main applications you need to run this self-contained web server. Apache Web Server is the key one that runs I'm not even sure how to explain Apache. It's the key.
The server site.
I mean, that is the web server. When you run Apache, it opens your computer up to
it basically makes the desktop computer a web server and will be able to take in web requests.
Yeah, you could basically publish web pages on your computer. So I'm going to start it, and when I click Start, you're going to see it opens up a window down here. It's just saying it's starting. You can just leave that open, or don't close that. That'll just stay open. We're not going to use this MySQL database server. That's a certain type of database. Instead, we're going to use this Postgres database server. It's a geospatial. It supports a lot of geospatial functions for location information and coordinate transformations and that kind of a thing, and that's what we built this off of. So we're going to start this one, and it launches another window down there that we'll just leave we'll leave these two open as we're running this server. Once we start Apache, we can now host web pages. Once we start the Postgres database server, we can now have web pages that connect to a database on the back end. And to test this thing, make sure it's running, as a URL or a website, we could type localhost. That means you're pointing to this computer that this is running on. And when you do that, you should get the website, the virtual data center website. And my guess is you probably got some of this website, but maybe not all of it. I don't know, Alan, were you able to pull this up?
I haven't done that. I was just trying to do it now to see what happens.
You might find that there's some stuff in the lower half of the page that just has like some error messages. I know I ran into that, and I had to fix a couple of kind of cryptic settings in the system to get this part to work.
No, all I get is a screen that says PHP version 5.2.3. It doesn't.
Okay, and that's when you just have localhost up top.
Yeah.
Okay, so something's not quite right. What I'll do is I'm going to bundle this up again. I'm going to rezip it and repost it.
Okay.
And I think when you try it again, you should get this.
Good. All right, we'll keep going then.
Okay, yeah. So I'll keep going. So the basic web server is running. If you type localhost and you get a blank page, then the Apache's not even working. The web server's not even working. So yeah, so the site's working. It looks like I've got some of these links that looks like most of it's functional. But the main thing is the login. I can log in. It looks like the login page is working. The account, and I'll give you this account information. It's my email address. And the password is Cosmos, C-O-S-M-O-S. And I'm going to bundle that in here. It's actually, I'll just put this text file in here. It just has this account login information. Actually, that's not entirely correct. It should be a dot. But, I don't think the forgot password function is working because the mail service isn't working. Again, I'm only pointing to the database and the files that are all residing on this flash drive. So nothing's going outside of outside of this or outside of my computer right now. Like, I don't even need to be connected to the internet to even test this or run this. Once I log in, I got my landing page. My account type, there's, I think, 3 different account types built into the system. You can be an administrator, you can be a data provider, or you could be a member or a user, I think. Subscriber. Yeah, maybe that's the word we use, subscriber. And I'm an administrator, so I've got an administrative menu here, and I've got a data provider menu. If I was just a user, these 2 menus wouldn't be visible to me, I don't believe. Oh, representative. We'll have to think about that. And there was another level as a organizational representative. And let me just explain that for a minute. The way this site is set up, users have to belong to organizations. So you could have, like Caltrans, we might have 5,000 engineers that all belong to an organization called Caltrans, and Caltrans might have 1 or 2 representatives that represent the organization that manage all the Caltrans people accounts. And if there was some sort of financial piece or subscriber fee or annual fee tied to the system, the organizational representative would be the person that manages that kind of the, paying the subscriptions and, those kinds of things. That's why we had this representative in here. And they could approve users, and they basically manage the people within their organization. So there's no, we tried to offload as much of the administrative work from the Cosmos Virtual Data Center staff, like kind of push that out to the organization so the organizations can manage their own staff.
Okay.
But I'll talk about that. So yeah, so subscriber home gives me some general statistics, and if I have to take some actions, it looks like as a, do I need to approve, as a representative, do I need to approve new staff in my organization? Are they requesting accounts, that kind of a thing. And as an administrator, there's some to-dos for me too. Do I need to do some things? Let me jump to kind of I'm going to wear my user hat and go through this search. And I already know the map doesn't work. Like I mentioned, the Google API has changed, so this would require some amount of work to redo the map interface. But if I do just a search, I get results. And the results are displayed by organization or grouped by organization. There's in the database already, there's several hundred data sets, and then some test data providers we put in here during our beta testing to make sure some of the harvesting features worked. Caltrans, there are a couple hundred CPT data files. I mentioned I converted a bunch of those. But you can go in and click here. So now I'm looking at Caltrans, just Caltrans data results. I mentioned that preview, the previewer. I know it doesn't work here. I don't think it works. Yeah, this isn't going to work. But that's that image I showed you in the presentation is what would show up if I clicked preview. I can click on any row and I get the map palette. So interestingly, the map palette still works for the Google API, but it doesn't work on the main map. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting. And so the idea as a user, I'd go in, I could preview, I could look at where they are, and ultimately I'm just going to make selections on which things I actually want to download, shopping cart style, and then I can say I want to download these files. It brings me to a Caltrans specific download page. I hope this works. What it's doing is it takes those files and it's bundling them into a single zip download package, and then it gives me this confirmation page. It's basically saying, yeah, I've chosen to download these 5 files. There's a section in here. This is every organization can customize this with whatever content you want to put, images or links or information about your organization. And then there's this whole liability thing. This, again, the organization can customize this to whatever they feel is appropriate, that they want users to agree with. And then it goes through this download process where it should give me a prompt that says, where do you want to download this zip file? I don't think this is going to work because I don't think I have the actual file sitting in the right place. But that's the idea. It would then bundle those 5 digs XML files and deliver them to me. Let's see. I'm going to back out of this, hopefully.
So just a question for you. The local host, that old web page structure and everything,
Yeah.
Where is that located on this US GIS?
That's going to be sitting under this USB GIS. And it's going to be sitting under, give me a second here, it's under apps, and it's packaged under XAMPP Lite, HTDocs, and then GVDC site.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so I know that was kind of digging deep, but on this, everything, when you type localhost maps to this path on this flash drive. And it's going to look for a file called index.php. And this file serves up this page. Everything else on this site that's what these files are. Every page is shown here. So some of this stuff might even look familiar. Things like you know, generate metadata, you know, search for documents. You know, these are all the files that that are served up through this website.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Back into this. Why this? Looks like I hung up this the server on that that download piece. Okay, so that's the search again. That's why I wanted to bring up that PowerPoint, because I thought it did a better job of showing what the full features look like. As an administrator, let me go in to because I'm wearing the administrator hat. This is where I can add organizations, and then again, beta testing. We had our key partners, USGS, CGS, PG&E, and Caltrans were primary testers, and then we had some sample testers, these test groups that we added. But as an administrator, if we were going to add, I don't know, Department of Water Resources or something, I can add a new organization, and there's I would add the name, and I'd give it a unique provider code in this case, and I would add other details. For example, this HTML, this liability statement, and I think this is just some historical data. But as a administrator, I'd add the organization, and then the organization, which is called a data provider, would then go in and let's say Caltrans is a data provider. As an administrator, I add Caltrans, and then if I'm the data provider representative, the account holder, I would go in, I would have this data provider menu that allow me to go in and edit my disclaimer and organizational download page, you know, info page. So I can go in here and just add, you know, images and edit this stuff. You can see I have these basic tools here to edit what's presented to users when they download, and I can edit this stuff here and then save it. So I can customize that download page however I think is appropriate. So that was a key, you know, piece for the data provider. Again, a lot of that was driven by California Geological Survey wanting to make sure that proper attribution is given for data that they're providing to the virtual data center. Because a lot of their funding is tied to their services, and they wanted to be sure that was, you know, that was in there. So that makes a lot of sense. As a data provider, there was a reporting feature. I have not looked at, I did not test this, so I you know, really don't know how it's going to, but I think it provides like a table summary of, you know, who's downloading your data, how often your data is being downloaded. So again, this was a CGS-driven requirement, but a really good one. So as a data provider, you can see, you know, hey, I supplied thousands of data files. Who's using it? How often is that data being used? Okay, so a new data provider, I mentioned when they have to have DIGS files stored on a server somewhere, and then they have to generate that metadigs file. And they actually have to, when they sign up, they actually have to go and do this and actually tell the GVDC to generate that file. Because let's say they add more DIGS files to the server, they'll need to regenerate their metadigs file so that the server knows that that file collection has changed. Or if they've removed files or updated files, they'll want to regenerate the metadigs file. And this is the feature that has them do that to regenerate it. It's not working in here, and I didn't have time to figure out why it wasn't working. But there was a, I'm going to pull up a, let me switch screens here. We actually had a sample document. It was a set of instructions to data providers on what it takes to organize your files. A user's guide, how to create metadigs file and do the harvesting. Basically, they've got to organize their files in some sort of file structure, and it's really up to them how they want to do it. Maybe multiple borehole files under a project, and then all that gets into dumps into a big directory called digs files, or whatever they want to call it. It doesn't really matter. And they go through and run this, and this is what I was showing you here, this feature that says generate meta, and it gives you this panel that basically then allows you to them to say, where are my files stored locally? So it's on some directory on their web server, and then what do they want to call that? And then they hit process, and it creates the metadigs file, and it gives them some message that says, you know, that was successful. Let me go back to the screen here. So that's what this page is here, generate that metadigs file. And once they generate that metadigs file, then they tell the virtual data center to actually go through and what's called harvest that. So actually retrieve it and update the you know, the catalog of, you know, of files available by your particular organization. And we envisioned that as a data provider, you might only do this, you know, a couple times a year when your data files change, or at whatever frequency, you know, you want to make your data discoverable to users in the community. And the way this works is you have to provide some information on, you know, where's the website where your data files are stored. And I started to try to get to this to work yesterday, and then I didn't have time to completely fix it, but I put it on localhost and I put some CPT files. You basically go through and say, where are those files stored and what's the name of that metadigs file, and you click harvest, and it you know, gives you a response. It says successfully updated, and then you're done. So as a data provider, that's kind of your key thing, is to edit your disclaimer. You can do some reporting, and then creating the metadigs file and harvesting. But again, as a data provider, you don't have to install any software. You just have to go to this website and you know, execute these two functions. As a representative, so this is a representative is the point person at an organization that's interacting with a virtual data center. This is not necessarily a data provider. This could be I don't know, a private consulting firm that just wants to access the virtual data center, and they have, you know, a dozen staff that they want to access the system. And that representative has this feature to manage the users within their organization. And this is where we created this structure to have, if we wanted a fee for access kind of a structure, it's built into the system. So in this case, you know, this organization, you could buy, I can't remember these CPAC and PPAC, they're consumer pack, provider pack. So maybe as a consumer of data, you buy a consumer pack, I don't know, unlimited downloads or 500 downloads, whatever it is, and it has a starting, you know, effective date, and you know, basically a way for the representative, the main account manager at the organization can go in and subscribe to a certain download service, kind of like you would with minutes on your cell phone service or something like that. And then there's no billing function in here, but that would have to be handled outside of the system, but it's basically a way for an organization to request services. The system tracks the downloads, how many users are downloading how much of, you know, different kinds of files, and when it reaches the limits, it discontinues the service or suspends the service until it's renewed. So there's those features are all built in. And that's under this administrative panel. So as the system administrator, you can go in and actually configure these different services. So consumer packs are users that just want to download data. Providers are for data providers. And, you know, again, this is without making any decisions on policy on how this would be administered, there's still a system that if you wanted to charge providers to use this as a way to disseminate their data, you could. Not sure that, you know, again, policy-wise, you know, there was no decision made on how these things would be implemented other than the features built into the system. And you have ways to, again, expand these. You can see here, add, view, edit, delete. So as an administrator, you can configure this, the business model side of it if you wanted. See anything, Yang? I think I ran through all the different features. Users, data providers, data consumers and their representatives, account management, business aspects, previewer. I do want to mention one other thing. I found this document. We recognized at the time, recall I mentioned the system was originally built with a Cosmos XML data interchange standard, and then early on in the project it was DIGS version 1, and then afterwards it was DIGS version 2. And we knew that moving forward that the versions of DIGS would change, would evolve over time, and we didn't want to build a system that couldn't accommodate the different versions of DIGS, you know, as time went on. And so part of this was that the MetaDigs tool and the previewer tool, those are all built expecting a certain version of DIGS. And there was a modular approach to supporting those different versions. And I don't remember all the details other than there were very specific codes that could handle the different versions of DIGS or the, you know, early version of Cosmos. I guess we're calling it Cosmos DIGS here, but a Cosmos XML format. But that as you release a new version of DIGS, you would release a new module or I guess a PHP transform. I think those were maybe single files or so. It was structured in a way that you could incrementally release and support newer versions of DIGS as those were released. Does that sound right, Yang?
Yes. It does require someone to know a little bit about programming to get into one of the files to add into new versions.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, just the idea that we were thinking about kind of future-proofing the platform.
Cool.
Any questions on this stuff?
No, I think it looks pretty robust and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like it. I think this is, I don't know what you think, Alan. I think this is about as good as we're going to get.
And I'll tell you, at the time, we thought during the Pooled Fund DIGS project, we brought this up a number of times just because a lot of us were on both teams, and we put this forth as a, you know, maybe this would be a good platform to have different DOTs or different regional providers. At least it gives them a platform to demonstrate how DIGS might be used for data exchange between different parties, you know, by having this platform out there. And that never took hold. Like, there was a kind of a chicken and egg thing going on. Like, the Cosmos group was waiting for DIGS to be finished to finish the, you know, this GVDC platform. And the DIGS group couldn't use this as a demonstration platform because DIGS was changing so quickly. You know, every you know, by the week it kept evolving. It was kind of in the run up to the conclusion of that project. So that never materialized. So this was really, you know, it was run by Cosmos Peer for maybe another year after the close of the project, and then it was run on I think it was run on an Amazon server. We had it on the Amazon cloud for a while, and then when that contract ran out, we basically shelved it. So it was packaged into this portable GIS platform, shelved until here we are.
Yeah.
Years
We
later.
knew it would come back. Okay, let's go ahead and stop the recording. That probably covers most of what we had.
Yep.
In the description.